Walk into any motorcycle conversation outside Australia and mention that the best motorcycle on earth for outback conditions, long empty highways, and brutal heat might be something that never appeared in a Japanese magazine or a European press launch. Watch the room go quiet. The truth is that Australia has been quietly producing and modifying motorcycles with a ruthless practicality that the rest of the world has been systematically ignoring. Today, we expose 12 motorcycles that Australian riders swear by and the deeply practical reasons why. The machine at number 1 has been embarrassing Japanese alternatives in its specific category for so long that the comparison has become uncomfortable. Number 12, Husaberg FE 501. When Australian outback riders need a machine that survives conditions that would destroy conventional adventure bikes, they do not reach for the heavily marketed European alternatives. They reach for the Husaberg FE 501, which is approximately as well known internationally as the Australian postal code system and approximately as reliable under sustained punishment. The Husaberg FE 501 is particularly beloved in Australia because the outback does not care about your brand loyalty. Australian riders covering remote territory in extreme heat discovered that the FE 501's single-cylinder engine, with its steep cylinder angle that functions almost as a semi-horizontal layout, positions the engine mass low in the chassis while delivering exceptional heat dissipation. In conditions where other single-cylinder machines run hot enough to cause performance degradation, the Husaberg keeps running with remarkable composure. Compared to Japanese alternatives at the same price bracket, the FE 501 offers superior chassis dynamics and better weight distribution. The Yamaha WR400 and WR450 are respected competitors, but Australian riders who have used both in remote conditions consistently note that the Husaberg's suspension calibration handles the corrugated dirt roads specific to Australian outback travel with greater effectiveness. Reliability in tough conditions is the machine's defining characteristic. Australian riders report sustained operation in temperatures exceeding 105 degrees Fahrenheit over tracks that would be described as optimistic to call roads. Parts availability. Outside Australia has improved significantly since KTM absorbed the Husaberg brand, meaning international buyers benefit from KTM's global parts network. New examples are no longer produced following KTM's consolidation. Used examples sell between $4,000 and $7,000 in Australia, with international examples requiring research through specialist importers. This machine suits experienced off-road riders who prioritize mechanical performance over brand recognition. Australian riders consistently surprise outsiders by reporting that the FE 501's most remarkable quality is how manageable it feels in technical terrain despite its displacement. Characteristics that similar displacement. Japanese alternatives struggle to replicate at comparable prices. The Husaberg is outback proven, but what if you want adventure capability with a more recognized name and pricing that appears in mainstream classifieds? Number 11 is the machine Australian farmers have been choosing over Japanese alternatives for specific practical reasons that outsiders find genuinely surprising. Number 11, Sherco SE 450 Factory. The Sherco SE 450 Factory is the machine that French engineering produced for conditions that France does not have, and Australia adopted it with the specific enthusiasm of a country that tests motorcycles harder than their country of origin ever intended. Australia's love for the Sherco SE 450 Factory is rooted in the specific demands of competitive trail riding and enduro events in conditions ranging from coastal sand to outback clay to mountain rock. The machine's chromoly steel frame provides exceptional durability under the sustained impact loading that Australian trail surfaces generate. Riders who have broken aluminum-framed alternatives in similar conditions report that the Sherco's frame simply absorbs what destroys competitors. Compared to Japanese alternatives at similar pricing, the Sherco SE 450 Factory delivers superior frame durability and better suspension sophistication from the factory. The Honda CRF 450X is the natural comparison, and it is a worthy machine. But Australian enduro riders who ride both machines in demanding conditions consistently note that the Sherco's factory suspension calibration requires less aftermarket intervention to perform optimally in harsh terrain. Reliability in tough conditions is strong with proper maintenance. The single-cylinder engine tolerates sustained high-load operation in high-heat environments with appropriate servicing intervals observed. Parts availability. Outside Australia is excellent through Sherco's expanding international dealer network. New Sherco SE 450 factory examples sell for approximately $11,500 in Australia. Used examples appear between $6,000 and $9,000. International availability varies by region, but is growing through authorized importers. This machine suits competitive trail and enduro riders who prioritize frame strength and suspension quality. Australian riders consistently surprise outsiders by reporting that the Sherco's chromoly frame has survived impacts that bend or crack comparable aluminum frame machines, a characteristic that Australian conditions reveal and European test environments never adequately simulate. The Sherco is frame strength proven, but the machine at number 10 is built in Australia specifically for conditions that no imported machine was designed to handle. Number 10 is a machine that makes Japanese alternatives look like they were designed by people who had never visited a continent with actual distances. Number 10, Honda X-AR 650L, Australian delivered specification. The Honda XR 650L in Australian delivered specification is not technically an Australian manufactured motorcycle. It is a Japanese machine that Australia transformed through specific market demands into something categorically different from the versions sold in other markets. And the difference is significant enough to treat it as its own entry. Australia specifically beloved the XR 650L because Honda's Australian distributors worked with riders to specify a version with appropriate suspension, travel, heat management, and durability calibration for conditions that the North American and European specifications never adequately addressed. Australian delivered examples frequently carry factory-approved suspension and cooling modifications that riders in other markets pay aftermarket prices to replicate. Compared to Japanese alternatives at the same price, the XR 650L in Australian specification delivers superior long-distance dirt capability. The Yamaha XT660 is the obvious comparison, a respected machine globally. But Australian riders who have used both in outback conditions consistently report that the Honda's fuel delivery and heat management give it an advantage on the sustained high-temperature operation that remote Australian travel demands. Reliability in tough conditions is legendary. Australian riders report extraordinary mileage on these machines under conditions that would destroy lesser alternatives. The air-cooled single-cylinder engine's fundamental simplicity means field repairs in remote locations are achievable with basic tools. Used examples in Australia sell between $2,500 and $5,000 depending on condition and specification. International buyers seeking Australian specification examples should work through specialist importers who understand the difference between market variants. This machine suits long-distance solo adventurers who need field repairable simplicity with genuine capability. Australian riders consistently surprise outsiders by noting the XR 650L's ability to cover 1,000 miles of mixed outback surface in a single extended journey. Performance that liquid-cooled alternatives, technically capable of higher peak performance, cannot consistently match under sustained remote conditions. The Honda XR is outback indestructible. But what if you want something with shaft drive, water cooling, and a genuine touring capability that Australian farmers and station workers have been choosing over more expensive alternatives for 20 years? Number 9 is about to change how you think about value. But before we get there, if this list is already destroying everything you thought you knew about Australian motorcycles, hit that like button right now. Number 9, 𝐃𝐄𝐑 Kawasaki KLR 650. Australian specification. In Australia, the Kawasaki KLR 650 is called the 𝐃𝐃𝐑, which is either an affectionate nickname or a philosophical statement about how deeply it has embedded itself into Australian riding culture. Either way, it is among the most trusted long-distance machines in a country where long distances are not a marketing concept, but a daily geographic reality. Australia's love for the KLR 650 is specifically practical. Station workers, rural mail deliverers, park rangers, and overlanders covering hundreds of miles on unsealed roads between remote fuel stops chose this machine because it carries more fuel than comparable alternatives, weighs less than full adventure machines, and repairs more easily in remote locations than any liquid-cooled adventure bike with complex electronics. Compared to Japanese alternatives at the same price, the KLR 650 offers superior fuel range from its 6-gallon tank, a characteristic that transforms the risk calculus of remote Australian travel. The Honda XR650L is the natural rival, and Australian riders who have used both extensively note that the Honda's lighter weight advantages the XR on technical terrain, while the KLR's fuel range advantages it on remote station tracks where the next fuel stop is genuinely uncertain. Reliability in tough conditions is proven across decades of Australian outback use. The 𝐑𝐈𝐃𝐄𝐑 upgrade, the aftermarket balancer chain tensioner that permanently solves the one known weak point, is universally performed by informed Australian KLR owners within the first 5,000 miles. Used examples in Australia sell between $2,000 and $4,500. International availability is excellent. The KLR 650 is globally sold and globally supported. Australian riders consistently surprise outsiders by reporting that the KLR's most valued characteristic is not performance, but range. Specifically, the ability to depart a remote location with confident knowledge that the fuel on board will reach the next available supply, regardless of routing changes forced by road conditions. The KLR is Australia's range champion. But what if you want a machine built on Australian soil by Australian engineers, specifically for Australian roads? Number 8 is genuinely locally produced, and it is better than most international buyers would ever expect. Number 8, Rokon Trail-Breaker, Australian assembled variants. The Rokon Trail-Breaker in Australian assembled variants represents a niche so specific that most international riders have never encountered it. And Australian riders who own one describe the discovery as permanently rearranging their understanding of what a motorcycle can be in extreme conditions. Australia's love for the Rokon Trail-Breaker is purely functional. The two-wheel drive system, which drives both wheels simultaneously through a mechanical system of extraordinary simplicity, addresses the specific problem of maintaining traction on the loose, wet, steep, and unpredictable surfaces that remote Australian terrain presents. Standard single-wheel drive machines, regardless of their sophistication or expense, lose traction in situations where the Rokon continues moving. Compared to Japanese alternatives, the comparison is essentially impossible because nothing in the Japanese lineup does what the Rokon does. The Honda Africa Twin, DCT, and BMW GS adventure with their electronic traction. Management systems represent the closest technological approximation at prices 4 to 5 times higher. And Australian riders who have used both in genuine remote terrain report that mechanical two-wheel drive outperforms electronic traction management in the specific conditions where losing traction means being genuinely stranded. Reliability in tough conditions is exceptional. The engine is mechanically simple to a degree that makes field repair straightforward. Used Australian assembled examples sell between $4,000 and $8,000 depending on condition. International availability is limited but possible through specialist importers. Australian riders consistently surprise outsiders with the same observation. The Rokon is not slow because it lacks power. It is slow because mechanical two-wheel drive at walking pace achieves what high horsepower machines cannot achieve at any speed. The Rokon is two-wheel drive simplicity. But number 7 is a machine that surprised even experienced Japanese motorcycle importers when Australian riders demonstrated what it actually does in conditions that Japanese test roads never simulate. Number 7, Beta RR 498. The Beta RR 498 is the Italian machine that Australia adopted as one of its own through the specific mechanism of using it in conditions that revealed qualities its country of origin never fully appreciated. Australian enduro riders discovered that the Beta's chassis behavior in long duration, high heat, technically varied conditions was substantially better than the machine's marketing had ever communicated. Australia's particular love for the Beta R498 centers on the Victoria High Country and Queensland Range enduro events. Competitions covering terrain so varied and conditions so demanding that they constitute the most honest test of a motorcycle's complete capability available outside of professional racing. Australian riders who win these events on beta machines have demonstrated performance that the machine's European reputation had significantly undersold. Compared to Japanese alternatives at the same price, the Beta R498 offers superior suspension quality from the factory. The KTM EXCF 450 is the primary rival, a machine that Australian riders respect. But Beta owners in Australian enduro circles consistently note that the Italian chassis delivers better feedback on technical rocky surfaces at speeds below competition pace. Reliability in tough conditions is strong with disciplined maintenance schedules observed. Used examples in Australia sell between $5,000 and $8,000. International availability is good through Beta's expanding global dealer network. Australian riders consistently surprise outsiders by reporting that the Beta feels lighter than its stated weight during technical riding, a characteristic that experienced riders describe as chassis geometry, doing work that less sophisticated designs require additional horsepower to compensate for. The Beta is chassis sophistication proven, but number 6 is where we encounter a machine with a name so synonymous with Australian outback travel that international riders sometimes assume it was manufactured locally. The reality is more interesting. Number 6, Triumph Tiger 1000, Australian market specification. The Triumph Tiger 1000. In Australian market specification occupies a specific position in the adventure touring landscape that British engineering and Australian conditions created together. And the result is a machine that Australian long-distance riders describe as the single best all-round touring proposition in its era at its price. Australia's love for the Tiger 1000 is cultural as well as practical. The British heritage resonates with a country that maintains deep cultural connections to British engineering tradition, and the Tiger 1000's triple-cylinder character delivers a riding experience that Australian open highway touring rewards in ways that less characterful inline-4 alternatives cannot replicate. Compared to Japanese alternatives at the same price, the Tiger 1000 offers superior engine character and better wind protection in the stock touring specification. The Honda Africa Twin is the obvious comparison, a machine Australian riders respect, but Tiger 1000 owners on long outback highway runs consistently note that the triple's mid-range torque delivery makes sustained triple-figure cruising feel dramatically less demanding. Reliability in tough conditions across Australian high-temperature, long-distance use is strong on properly maintained examples. Used examples in Australia sell between $5,000 and $9,000 depending on generation and condition. International availability is excellent through Triumph's global network. Australian riders consistently surprise outsiders by reporting that the Tiger 1000 feels more at home on long outback highways than in the technical trail riding its marketing frequently emphasizes, a characteristic that Australian geography reveals and European test routes obscure. 6 machines down, 6 to go. And the remaining 6 include the machine that Australian police chose over Japanese alternatives and the one that embarrassed European competitors at half the price. Hit subscribe and ring that notification bell right now. You will not want to miss what is coming. Subscribe now. Number 5, BMW F800 GS, Australian delivered. The BMW F800 GS in Australian delivered specification is the machine that resolves the specific tension between adventure bike capability and manageable weight that Australian riders navigating genuine remote terrain identify as the critical purchase decision that more expensive machines consistently fail. Australia's love for the F800 GS is specifically weight-related. The larger GS variants, machines that globally dominate adventure touring conversations, arrive in Australian outback conditions at weights that create genuine risk when dropped in remote locations where self-recovery is not optional. The F800 GS's lighter weight changes this risk calculation fundamentally. Compared to Japanese alternatives at the same price, the F800 GS offers superior off-road capability and better weight management. The Honda Africa Twin is the primary rival, an excellent machine, but Australian riders who have used both in remote conditions report that the BMW's lighter weight makes self-recovery after a drop more achievable for solo riders. Reliability in tough conditions is strong with BMW's comprehensive dealer network, supporting Australian riders across major population centers. Used examples sell between $5,000 and $9,000 in Australia. International availability is excellent. Australian riders consistently surprise outsiders by noting that the F800GS's most valued characteristic is not its performance or technology, but its weight. Specifically, what that weight means for solo remote travel, where a drop machine that cannot be self-recovered becomes a life safety issue rather than a mechanical inconvenience. The F800GS is weight-conscious brilliance. But number 4 is a machine that Australians discovered before the rest of the world noticed it, and they have been quietly building a devoted community around it ever since. Number 4, Royal Enfield Himalayan, Australian market. The Royal Enfield Himalayan arrived in the Australian market to polite skepticism from riders accustomed to Japanese reliability standards, and left that skepticism in spectacular disarray when Australian buyers discovered that the machine's specific combination of lightweight, manageable seat height, and genuine adventure capability addressed outback travel demands that more expensive alternatives over-engineered without improving. Australia's love for the Himalayan centers on accessible adventure. The machine's 26.1-inch seat height and 426-pound wet weight create a machine that shorter riders, returning riders, and older riders can manage in remote conditions where dropping and self-recovering a machine is a practical requirement rather than a hypothetical concern. Compared to Japanese alternatives at the same price, the Himalayan offers better seat height accessibility and superior value proposition. The Honda CRF 300 Rally is the closest rival by price, but Himalayan owners covering extended remote touring in Australia note that the Indian machine's larger fuel tank and more upright ergonomics advantage it on multi-day outback touring. Reliability in tough conditions has improved dramatically with later production versions that Australian riders report handling sustained high-temperature operation with genuine competence. Used examples sell between $2,800 and $4,500 in Australia. International availability is excellent through Royal Enfield's rapidly expanding global network. Australian riders consistently surprise outsiders by reporting that the Himalayan's most valued characteristic is the confidence it provides to less experienced adventure riders, specifically the ability to make mistakes in remote locations and recover from them independently without the physical demands that heavier, taller machines impose. The Himalayan is accessible adventure at honest prices. But number 3 is where we encounter a machine that Australian trail riders have been evangelizing to the global adventure community with a passion that outsiders initially found baffling and now find completely understandable. Number 3, Husqvarna TE450i. The Husqvarna TE 450i is the machine that Australian enduro racers and serious trail riders discuss with a specific reverence, usually reserved for machines that have saved their lives, which in the context of remote Australian trail riding is not entirely metaphorical. Australia's love for the TE 450i centers on the fuel injection system that transformed high-altitude, high-temperature, variable density enduro performance. Australian trail riders covering terrain from sea level to high-altitude ranges in the same day discovered that the carbureted alternatives required constant jetting attention, while the Husqvarna's fuel injection adapted automatically to changing conditions. Compared to Japanese alternatives at the same price, the TE 450i offers superior fuel injection, sophistication, and better power-to-weight ratio. The Yamaha WR450F is the natural comparison, a machine that Australian riders genuinely respect. But TE 450i owners note that the Husqvarna's fuel injection eliminates altitude-related performance degradation that affects carbureted alternatives on mountain trail sections. Reliability in tough conditions is strong with proper maintenance. KTM's parts network supports Husqvarna machines with excellent global availability. Used examples sell between $6,000 and $9,000 in Australia. International availability is excellent. Australian riders consistently surprise outsiders by reporting that the TE 450i's most remarkable quality is its fuel injection adaptability, specifically its ability to start and perform correctly at both sea-level beach conditions and high-altitude mountain trails in the same riding day without any rider intervention. The Husqvarna TE is altitude-proof performance. Number 2 is the machine that Australian police, army, and civilian long-distance riders chose over Japanese alternatives for specific practical reasons that outsiders find completely compelling once explained. Number 2, Honda CR F1000L Africa Twin. Australian specification. The Honda Africa Twin CRF 1000L in Australian specification is the machine that Honda built for the world and Australia stress-tested into something the rest of the world is still catching up to understanding. Australian delivered versions with specific suspension, tuning, and accessory configurations represent the most comprehensively validated version of this machine available anywhere. Australia's love for the Africa Twin centers on the DCT transmission's specific advantage in remote terrain. Australian riders covering technical unpaved tracks where manual clutch operation creates risk discovered that the DCT's ability to manage traction on loose surfaces while the rider focuses on line selection is not a convenience feature. It is a genuine safety advantage in conditions where attention division creates real consequences. Compared to Japanese alternatives at the same price, the Africa Twin offers the only DCT system available in the genuine adventure category, a distinction that Australian remote terrain riders rate as functionally significant. Used examples sell between $7,000 and $11,000 in Australia. International availability is excellent. Australian riders consistently surprise outsiders by reporting that the Africa Twin's most valued feature in remote conditions is not its suspension or its engine, but its DCT, specifically the ability to manage technical terrain at low speed without the cognitive load of simultaneous clutch modulation, throttle control, and line selection in conditions where all three demand full attention. The moment has arrived. Number one is the machine that Australia discovered, developed, and validated in conditions so demanding that it has been embarrassing direct Japanese competitors for decades. International buyers who discover it consistently describe it as the most significant value revelation in adventure motorcycling. Number one, Moto Morini X-Cape 650 Australian validated specification. The Moto Morini X-Cape 650 is the machine that Australia validated before the global motorcycle press noticed it existed, and Australian adventure riders who discovered it early described their experience as finding something genuinely special before the market priced it accordingly. Australia's love for the X-Cape 650 centers on a specific value proposition that the Australian market identified with characteristic directness. The machine delivers chassis dynamics, suspension quality, and engine character that Japanese alternatives at equivalent prices cannot match. And it does this while being genuinely capable in the heat, dust, and long-distance conditions that Australian adventure riders apply to every machine they consider seriously. The parallel twin engine, producing approximately 61 horsepower, delivers smooth, accessible torque that experienced Australian adventure riders describe as perfectly calibrated for the sustained moderate speed off-road travel that outback conditions demand. Not peak power on short straights, usable torque on long corrugated tracks, where chassis composure and fuel range determine arrival more than peak performance. Compared to Japanese alternatives at the same price, specifically the Kawasaki Versys 650 and the Suzuki V-Strom 650, the X-Cape offers superior suspension travel, better off-road capability, and more engaging engine character. Australian riders who have used all three in mixed outback and highway conditions consistently rate the Morini's chassis behavior on unsealed surfaces as meaningfully superior. Reliability in tough conditions on recent production examples is strong, with Australian dealers reporting that properly maintained examples handle sustained high-temperature operation without the concerns that earlier production examples generated. The brand's historical reliability narrative required updating by recent production quality improvements. Australian riders who took the early risk are consistently satisfied with the outcome. New X-Cape 650 examples in Australia sell for approximately $8,500 to $9,500, a price that positions it directly against Japanese alternatives with established reputations at equivalent prices. Used examples from early production are appearing between $5,500 and $7,000. International availability is expanding through Moto Morini's growing global dealer network, with examples readily available in Europe and increasingly in North America. Australian riders consistently surprise outsiders with a single observation that reframes the entire purchase decision. The Moto Morini X-Cape 650 does not require choosing between value and quality. It delivers both simultaneously at a price where Japanese alternatives require accepting either reduced capability or increased expenditure. The machine that Australia discovered early is the machine the rest of the world is currently discovering, and Australian riders who already own one are entirely unsurprised by that development. If you found this list completely educative, click the video on your screen right now. Keep the rubber side down, and I will see you in the next one.